No one had seen Princess Charlotte for nearly half an hour. She'd missed her security check-in. She hadn't shown up for tea, and no one had eyes on her until Sergeant Callum Wade stepped into the south bathing wing and heard the water running. At first, he thought it was nothing until a housemaid hurried past, eyes lowered, until he noticed the steam leaking under the bathroom door. Until he heard it, a child's voice, thin, roar, trembling. "I said I'll be good. Just open the door." Then the click of a lock, then silence, then a scream, not of disobedience, not of drama, of fear. "Please don't close it again. Camilla, please." And that's when the guard made a decision. No permission, no protocol, no time. He broke the door open. And what he found on the other side was never meant to be seen. Now, before we show you what was happening inside that bathroom, drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from. Tap like, hit subscribe, and turn on the bell icon. Because when a royal guard breaks a locked door, you know something crossed the line. Windsor Castle breathed differently after 6 p.m. The hush wasn't silence, not exactly. It was the sound of old stone holding its breath, of courtiers retreating behind oak doors, of corridors going dim one lamp at a time. In the deeper wings, the ones tourists never saw, that quiet became something closer to stillness, and in the southwest bathing wing, stillness was the norm. Sergeant Callum Wade moved through it with practiced steps, precise, smooth, inaudible, despite the polished floors beneath his boots. He wasn't a new recruit. 13 years with the Coldstream Guards had made his awareness sharper than most, but tonight's patrol shouldn't have required it. This wing rarely held activity after sundown. The private suites, those allocated to senior royals or high-ranking guests, had been logged as unused. Even the steward logs were clear. The bathing wing had been vacated for the evening. Wade rounded a final corner and caught movement, a blur of motion ahead. A housemaid exited the corridor quickly, adjusting her apron with one hand. She didn't make eye contact. Her face was pale, posture too stiff for someone leaving a simple linen check. He called out evenly, "All well, miss." She didn't pause, just mumbled, "Maintenance sounds in the suite, Sergeant. Small plumbing issue, but she didn't carry tools. No mop, no clipboard, no reason to be lying." Wade's stride slowed. Ahead, at the far end of the marble-tiled corridor, a thick carved oak door stood closed. A brass plaque above it read, "Bathing Suite 4A, Private." Steam traced a thin line beneath the door, faint but visible. He drew near, posture upright, hand resting lightly near his belt, not on his weapon, but not relaxed either. Water was running inside loudly, nothing unusual until he heard the thud, a low, heavy sound, something hitting tile, not loud, but not natural. Wade froze, tilted his head slightly, then it came again. A small voice, distorted by the thick door and the echo chamber beyond it. A child's voice, not screaming but frightened. "Camilla, Camilla, stop, please." He stepped closer. The door was locked, a shuffle inside, the soft, wet scrape of something against ceramic, then short, panicked breathing. His voice stayed calm. "Your Royal Highness, are you safe?" No answer, just the sound of water still running, now joined by the unmistakable stammer of breath. Then, sharp and cracked, came a scream. "Camilla, please don't close it again." WD pulse didn't spike, but the line in his mind did. Whatever lay behind that door, it was no longer routine. Sergeant Callum Wade rested his palm against the oak door, not pushing, just feeling. Heat radiated faintly through the wood, not extreme, but wrong for a bathing suit used by a child. He tried the handle again, firmly locked, and that alone twisted every instinct he had. In Windsor, bathroom doors never locked fully when minors were inside. Not for privacy, not for lessons, not for anything. A junior attendant was always posted nearby. Doors were kept ajar or secured with non-locking latches, a safety protocol older than WD's entire career. This door violated all of that. A bead of humidity rolled out from the bottom seam, gathering in a tiny circle at his boot. Steam, the corridor had been cool moments before, but now a faint warmth was building, slow, creeping, unnatural. Inside, the water kept running hard, a steady stream pounding porcelain, but it wasn't the water that made Wade lean closer. It was the voice, Camilla's low, curt, every syllable sharpened. "You will stand still. You're being ridiculous." Then the smaller voice, Charlotte's, cracking between breaths. "It's too hot. Open the door, please." Wade's jaw closed, muscles tightening under the skin, not visible, but real heat and panic. In a sealed room, this was no tantrum, no miscommunication. This was danger. He tapped the discreet radio clipped beneath his belt. "Control, verify Princess Charlotte's location." Immediate, static, then the reply. "Princess Charlotte is listed in East Gallery for reading tuition." No authorized movement recorded. A cold, clean certainty settled across WD thoughts. She wasn't supposed to be here. She wasn't cleared to be here, and she sure as hell wasn't safe. He stepped back half a pace, voice firm but controlled. "Mom, the princess is in distress. Open this door immediately." Inside, Camilla's tone sharpened. "This is a hygiene correction." She refused a lesson. "Stand down." Steam thickened beneath the door, curling like mist across the marble. WD lifted 2 fingers, a silent signal. 2 guards from the nearby corridor approached, no hesitation, forming an unobtrusive line behind him. He leaned in again, ear angled to the door, and there he heard it, not words, a muffled, gagging sound, soft but unmistakable. A child struggling to breathe against heat and humidity. His voice dropped, quiet enough to hide the anger beneath it. "Your Royal Highness, answer me. Are you able to breathe?" A choked, breathless reply. I can't. That was it. The tipping point." Wade straightened, shoulders squaring. His next words carried no threat, only inevitability. "Ma'am, unlock this door now." No response, just the rush of water and a child trying to hold on. Sergeant Callum Wade had forced doors before in training simulations, emergency drills, a few rare security responses. But procedure demanded every alternative be exhausted first, especially when royalty was involved, especially when the person behind the lock was technically above him in the hierarchy. So he tried one last time with absolute composure. He stood centered before the heavy oak panel and announced, tone clear measured. "Ma'am, this is Sergeant Wade of the Coldstream Guard. You are required to acknowledge silence except the relentless stream of water striking tile." He continued, still formal, still offering her the dignity of compliance. "Your presence with the princess is unlogged. The door is sealed. The environmental conditions inside appear unsafe. I am requesting immediate verbal confirmation of her welfare." A beat, then Camilla's voice honeyed with false calm. "She is perfectly fine. She is being dramatic to avoid correction." Correction, that word had become poisoned in this palace. Wade kept his expression neutral. "Your Royal Highness, the princess must confirm her safety herself." Another pause, then Charlotte's voice, thin, tight, wavering. "I can't breathe, please." It was the kind of sound children make when they're trying not to cry, not wanting to anger the adult in the room. the kind that stays under the skin long after it ends, and Camilla snapped instantly. "You're embarrassing yourself, Charlotte. Put your face under the cold tap and stop screaming." One of the junior guards behind Wade shifted, a subtle, instinctive move toward the door. He stopped himself the moment Wade lifted a finger in warning. No break in discipline, but the tension ran through them now like a wire pulled too tight. Wade leaned forward again, his voice softened, not out of weakness but control. "Your Royal Highness, speak clearly. Are you able to stand?" A faint scrape, Charlotte's feet slipping on wet tile, then a low whimper of effort. "I'm dizzy. I don't want to fall. Please open." Camilla cut her off. "Enough. You will do as you're told." The steam thickened visibly from beneath the door, carrying heat with it. The polished marble near WD Boots was now coated in a thin layer of condensation. His mind clicked through the list: a locked environment, a minor in distress, heat exposure, breathing difficulty, unsupervised adult refusing access, unauthorized relocation. All 5 were automatic triggers for immediate intervention under internal safety protocol, but he still gave Camilla her final chance. "Mom," he said, calm, deadly, steady, "if you do not unlock this door, I will breach it." Her reply was instantaneous and sharp. "You will not violate my private quarters," and behind that, Charlotte's breathing hitched again, short, shallow, frightened. Diplomacy ended itself. The water stopped. A sudden, jarring silence followed, the kind that made the hair on Wade's neck lift. It was never a good sign when tension gave way to quiet, especially after a child had begged for breath. He leaned in fast. Nothing moved inside. No footsteps, no commands, just steam seeping under the door, thick now, crawling like fog across the threshold. Wade pressed his ear to the wood. Then came the coughing, rapid, wet, small lungs struggling to expel the heat. Charlotte's voice cracked between gasps. "It burns, it burns. Please stop." Wade pounded once on the door, a controlled knock firm enough to echo. "Princess Charlotte," he said, stepping back, "if you can hear me, move to the far wall. We are preparing to enter." Behind the wood, Camilla shouted, muffled, erratic, "Stay where you are. Do not defy me." Another sharp cough, a frantic shuffle, then a scream, not theatrical, not dramatic, desperate. "Camilla, please open the door. Camilla." It wasn't fear of punishment, it was survival. Wade snapped to motion. Stand back. Forced entry. His voice didn't rise. He didn't need to yell. Authority, when earned, doesn't beg for attention. The junior guards behind him shifted immediately into flanking positions. One checked the frame. The other stepped to the right for hallway visibility. No questions asked. They knew the drill. They'd trained for emergencies, but this wasn't an emergency drill. This was a 10-year-old locked in a steam-filled marble chamber, stripped of breath and begging the one person who should have protected her and getting none. Wade took one final step to the door, posture squared. "Mom," he called, projecting through the panel, "if you do not open this door, responsibility for what follows is yours." No response, only the echo of small feet scrambling on tile, a faint thud, then nothing, no breath, no voice, just thick hissing silence from a space meant for peace. That was it. Wade didn't blink, didn't pause. He turned to the leftmost guard, nodded once. The breach team moved, one brace to the lower hinge, one grip to the upper seam. WD centered, his weight hand firm on the handle, calculating pressure and angle. With a clean, practiced motion, they drove the mechanical ram forward, not to splinter, just to break the lock. The sound cracked through the corridor like thunder behind a curtain. Click, creak, give. The door didn't fly open. It released, and behind it, the room breathed out in a wave of white heat. The instant the door gave, Way, a wall of steam poured outward, thick, wet, breath-stealing. It didn't rush like fire or smoke. It rolled, heavy and slow, the kind that clung to skin and uniforms and visibility alike. Sergeant Callum Wade stepped through it first, not rushing, not shouting. He led with discipline, posture upright, eyes narrowed against the fog. Inside, the air was suffocating. The walls dripped with condensation, mirrors fogged white. The ornate brass fixtures glistened like they'd been sweating. Somewhere deeper in the haze, the overhead water was still dripping from a recently shut-off tap. And then he saw her, Camilla, standing by the wide shower alcove, sleeves pushed up, holding the chrome shower wand loosely in one hand, its nozzle pointed at the tiled floor as if nothing had happened. Her expression wasn't panicked. It wasn't confused, it was annoyed, like she'd been interrupted while trying to clean up a mess. She refused to wash properly. She said flatly, "This was lesson." Wade didn't answer her, not yet. His focus moved to the far wall, just past the marble edge of the soaking tub, where a small figure was crouched on the floor, soaked to the bone. Princess Charlotte. She wasn't crying, not anymore. Her hands were half shielding her face. Her knees were pulled tight to her chest. Her shoulders trembled as though her body couldn't decide whether to sweat or shiver. Her cheeks were flushed, her lips pale. Her chest rose in short, controlled pulls of air, trying to breathe without hyperventilating. Wade crossed the tiled space without hesitation. He crouched low, keeping his voice even, eyes level with hers. "Your Royal Highness," he said gently, "you're safe now. Look at me." Her eyes flickered up, red-rimmed, blinking slowly. She didn't speak at first, just nodded. Then, barely above a whisper, she closed the door. I couldn't breathe. He didn't touch her, yet didn't rush. He reached instead for the folded towel draped over the back of a nearby chair, one of the luxury monogrammed ones. He opened it carefully, then extended it toward her. "May I wrap this around you?" Another nod. WD draped it over her shoulders, slow and deliberate, making sure no steam escaped the room behind him. Camilla didn't move. She watched him like someone offended by interference. She was overreacting, she said sharply. That door was not sealed tight. WD didn't even look at her. He rose slowly, his body now between Charlotte and the woman who had locked her in. His voice was calm. "Ma'am, step back." Charlotte didn't move when Wade draped the towel over her shoulders, not right away. She stayed curled near the wall, knees tucked, hair soaked and clinging to her cheeks. Fingers gripped the thick cotton fabric like it was the first solid thing she'd touched in hours. The warmth of the room had shifted, no longer oppressive, but heavy with what had been allowed to happen. Behind them, Camilla's voice broke through again, not concerned, not apologetic. "You're undermining me," she snapped. She must learn basic cleanliness and obedience. Charlotte flinched at the sound, not at the volume, at the tone. That told Wade more than any report ever could. He turned his body fully between them now, not aggressively, not as a threat, just enough to sever the visual line from Camilla to the child. "She will be escorted to medical," he said firmly, eyes never leaving Charlotte. Immediately priority case. 2 junior guards moved forward. One knelt beside Charlotte, keeping their distance, posture respectful. "Your Royal Highness," he said softly, "would you like to walk or shall we assist you?" Charlotte shifted slightly, testing her balance. Her legs wobbled, but she nodded. "I can walk," she whispered, voice. The guard offered his arm without touching her. She reached for it, small soaked fingers against navy fabric, and rose. Camilla took a step forward. She is not leaving midway through her instruction. Wade didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He stepped into her path with flawless posture, the kind no one could ignore. "Do not interfere," he said. It wasn't a threat. It was a command. Camilla stopped, the wet tile beneath her heels squeaking faintly. She looked at him like a servant who had spoken out of turn, but Wade didn't blink. He didn't move. Charlotte walked past them in silence, wrapped in towels, eyes lowered, flanked by guards who didn't speak and didn't look back. Only the faint echo of her cough followed them down the corridor. Once she crossed the threshold, Wade remained inside. Camilla stared at the open door like it had betrayed her. The steam had begun to clear now, revealing the space as it truly was, not a place of instruction, not a room of hygiene, but a controlled environment where the only lesson being taught was fear. WD uniform clung to him from the humidity, but he didn't shift. You locked her in a sealed room with elevated heat, he said quietly. Camilla's face curled with disdain. She defied me, she ran, there are consequences for that. Yes, Wade said, and he wasn't talking about Charlotte. The bathroom had stopped steaming, but it hadn't cooled. The warmth lingered in tiles, in the fogged mirrors, in the backs of WD lungs as he stood alone with the queen consort. Camilla hadn't moved from her place by the shower alcove. The chrome wand now rested loosely on its hook, water still dripping from the nozzle onto the floor in slow, methodical plinks. She looked at him like someone bored of being questioned. I know what this looks like, she said coolly, arms crossing, but children have become too sensitive. That one especially. Wade didn't reply, not yet. He simply observed, measured, assessed. The signs were all there, not of hysteria, not of rage, something colder, more curated. She screamed your name, he said evenly. Camilla's lips tightened. She's learned that calling for me gets her what she wants. She thinks everything is a performance. WD tone didn't shift. She said she couldn't breathe. She panicked over a bit of steam. Camilla snapped. She's dramatic when corrected. She was warned several times to stay put. He took a slow breath. You locked a minor royal in a sealed marble chamber with elevated humidity, rising temperature, and no external supervision. She begged for air. Camilla scoffed. She ran from her etiquette tutor earlier. Thought she could avoid her hygiene rotation. I needed her to understand that she cannot disappear from her responsibilities. She didn't disappear, Wade replied. You removed her from her scheduled location without logging it. Camilla's expression soured. Because if I'd logged it, I would have been told no. William indulges her every deflection. He's made her soft. Someone in this palace needs to instill discipline. He studied her. The makeup slightly melted around her temples, the hands too still, the eyes too sharp. Discipline doesn't require sealed doors, he said. Camilla stepped forward half a pace. You think I hurt her? I didn't touch her. I didn't strike her. All I did was insist she finish washing. You insisted by locking the door, he said, by creating an environment where panic was not only possible, but predictable. She stared him down. I corrected her. WD reply came like stone. No, you punished her and hoped no one would hear. A silence settled between them, not empty, not waiting, just heavy. Like something had finally been named aloud, and neither of them would ever be able to unname it again. The echo of footsteps arrived before the man did. Not rushed, not heavy, just precise, the kind of footfalls that carried consequence without needing to announce it. Sergeant Callum Wade turned slightly toward the corridor. He didn't need confirmation. Prince William was coming. By the time Prince stepped into view, Charlotte had already been escorted halfway down the hallway, wrapped in 2 towels, flanked by guards, walking in silence. Her damp hair clung to her cheeks. Her lips were parted slightly, drawing in slow, shallow breaths. She didn't cry, but she wasn't speaking either. William reached her first. He crouched without hesitation, ignoring the staff, the uniforms, even the royal silence. Sweetheart, he said gently, are you all right? Charlotte blinked up at him. I didn't mean to be bad, she said, voice barely above air, but she locked the door. It got really hot. I couldn't, she broke off with a quiet cough. William's jaw didn't clench, his eyes didn't flash, but something in the space around him shifted. A stillness descended, centered on the line of his spine. He rose, looked to the medical aide, escort her to the south reception. Quiet room, fluids, a soft blanket, no questions. Then he turned and walked toward the open bathroom door. Inside, Wade waited. Camilla had not moved. William stepped into the steam-cooled chamber and took in everything with one glance. The dripping fixtures, the damp tile, the visible line of steam still curling from the cracked door. Then his gaze locked on Camilla. "What happened?" he asked. Wade answered first, voice crisp, stripped of opinion. Princess Charlotte was found locked in a sealed bathing suite. She was not scheduled to be here. She exhibited signs of distress consistent with heat exposure and panic. Camilla cut in sharp. She disobeyed me. She refused to follow protocol and ran from her instruction. I was teaching her to follow through, that's all. William turned to her slowly. You locked a child in a bathroom. She needed to understand. Chuck, you locked a child in a heated bathroom, he said again flatly. Alone. Camilla bristled. It wasn't dangerous. She begged for breath. Wade added quietly. William didn't raise his voice. He never needed to. He simply looked at her and said, "You endangered my daughter." Camilla flinched, not visibly, not to anyone who didn't know her. But Wade saw it, the slight shift of her heels, the recalculation in her eyes. She tried one more time. It was a hygiene correction. William's reply came cold and clear. Then it should have been logged, supervised, transparent, not hidden behind a locked door with steam and silence. And for the first time in the conversation, Camilla had no reply. Prince William didn't move for a long moment. He stood in the center of the damp room, not commanding attention, not speaking, just present. And in Windsor Castle, that was more than enough. Camilla crossed her arms tightly. As if the moisture in the air had suddenly turned cold, William turned to Wade. Is Charlotte receiving care? Yes, sir. She's stable, conscious, but shaken. William nodded once. No wasted words. Then he looked back at Camilla. Effective immediately, he said, voice calm and unforgiving. Your access to private moments with Princess Charlotte is suspended. Camilla's jaw slackened. You're not serious. I am. She needs structure. If you want her to inherit anything with dignity, someone has to draw lines. You drew one, William replied, and you crossed it. Camilla took a step forward as if proximity could change verdicts. She manipulates everyone around her. You think that little performance was real. She screamed because I told her to scrub behind her ears. Wade said nothing. He didn't need to. William's gaze didn't shift. A child begging for air, he said, is not manipulation. Camilla's lips parted, but no sound followed. William's posture remained still, but there was a finality behind it. The Kindo title could override. I'll have her schedule redrawn. He continued. All custodial engagements involving you are paused, pending internal review. You are not to engage her alone without clearance. Camilla tried again, quieter now. You're overreacting. Then it will be documented as such. The words hung in the air, not cruel, not loud, just immovable. He nodded to Wade. Seal this sweet movement log. Incident report to the internal registrar. I want every security system on this wing reviewed for obstruction gaps. Yes, sir. William turned and exited without another glance. Camilla remained alone. Now she stared down the open door like it had betrayed her, steam trailing upward around her like smoke from a fire long extinguished. Wade moved last. He gave no farewell, no glance of judgment, only one final act. He stepped to the panel inside the door and slid the brass lock open fully. It clicked clean and loud, not to close the room, but to expose it. He stepped back into the corridor, posture clean, hands behind his back. and the palace returned to quiet, but not the kind it had known before. Now it was the kind that remembered. Charlotte's scream no longer echoed, but it didn't disappear. It lived in the tile, in the door, in the steam. And in every step, Sergeant Callum Wade took down that corridor. He carried it with him. Should a royal guard break into a locked bathroom if a child is screaming for help? Was Camilla enforcing discipline, or was this a dangerous abuse of authority? If you believe protecting a child comes before any royal protocol, tap like, hit subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss a moment that matters. Share this video with someone who needs to see just how far a royal guard will go to defend the voiceless. And with your next royal story already on screen, watch it now. And we'll see you tomorrow, same time, but with it a brand new